The following announcement has been paid for by the new Howl Order.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blue, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, I've talked about this several times in the last day or two about what you guys consumed over the weekend. This was a commanderless weekend of football, and quite frankly, we probably needed to get away from the squad after that performance on Thursday. And so I always enjoy these opportunities. They seem very infrequent because we're not a good team, so you don't get a lot of primetime games. So you're not on Thursdays or Sunday night or Monday night. You're usually on Sunday because you're not good. So we don't get many opportunities to just watch ball on Sundays because we're usually playing on Sundays. So this was a golden opportunity to kind of assess where we are. And I always like to do this as often as I get a chance to, because it's easy to fall into the trap of, well, this part of our team is really good, this part of our team isn't. And look, the eyeball test usually doesn't fail you, but sometimes I think we overrate certain aspects of our team. And it's always refreshing to be able to take that opportunity to assess the entire league and say, hey, this is valid. We do have one of the best defensive lines in football, or maybe we don't. Maybe it's overrated, right? And again, the eyeball test usually can tell you that. We got some of the best receivers. Well, they're not being utilized, but that doesn't mean they're not very good. And you can look at the other teams and see what they're doing and see what their cast of receivers are posting and say, yeah, our guys are better than that, right? Whatever the case may be. One of the things I did over this weekend, and I want to pose this question to you before I get started. What was the biggest takeaway that you had from the weekend as it regards to our team? Like watching something, saying to yourself, damn, we need that bad. Or, man, I thought ours was bad. It's not as bad as that. Or we could really use one of those. What was the biggest Commanders takeaway you had over the weekend? Watching other games. If you had one, you may not have had one. I'll give you mine. I have two actually, but this one is the biggest. So in watching football over this entire weekend, expanding out to Monday night as well, it was one thing that was apparent to me. For all this talk of our defensive line, in particular our defensive ends, because when you talk about our defensive line, everyone talks about the first round picks scattered across that, defensive line. And I contend that the defensive tackles are damn good, and I'd put them up against anybody. And I still feel that way, having watched the league and seeing other defensive tackle tandems around the NFL. There's some good ones. I still think ours is among the best. That said, the ends, however, being that we're in a contract year for them, somebody's probably going to get paid. There's a very small chance that both of them get away, but one of them is probably going to be on another team next year, if not franchise tagged, right? And I was looking at other edge rushers around the league, impactful ones, the guys that we claim are among the best in football. And there was one thing that was apparent to me about those guys. And I've said this before, so this isn't new, right? I've gone on rants about this before, but I'm hammering this point home again because our defense isn't getting it done, and there are situations where it's third and long. That Bears game was very eye-opening in this regard. It's third and long, and we're not even close to Justin Fields. I don't care that guys are getting toasted and roasted in the back end. How about you get close to a guy that doesn't like to have bodies around him, who gets nervous and jittery at the sight of color? We weren't anywhere close to Justin Fields, which is why he was able to be so comfortable in the pocket and deliver the football down the field accurately. Our edge rushers are not elite. They're not even close. Okay? And having an opportunity to just sit down and focus in on guys like TJ Watt, Aiden Hutchinson, Nick Bosa, and Max Crosby this weekend just reiterated what I've been saying for the last 2 to 3 years. Montez Sweat and Chase Young aren't elite football players. They're good. They're better than, 50% of the league is pass rushers. But when you spend a first round pick, you automatically are supposed to be better than half of the pass rushers in the league. But they haven't ascended to that level that makes them worthy of a first round pick. Do either of those guys feel like first round selections to you? I'm just asking. Do you feel like you've gotten first round production and value out of either one of those pass rushers? The thing that I thought struck me the most over the weekend in particular with the pass rushing scene is that no matter what, when these teams need their players the most, or no matter what's going on in the field, these guys are so active. They're relentless. They're dying to get to the quarterback. They're doing everything in their power to impact the game. 2 and 3 spins on one play. 2 and 3 moves. This first move gets stopped. Here's another one. That move gets stopped. Here's another move. They're constantly in motion. They're constantly doing something. And God forbid they get one-on-one. God forbid they get one-on-one. That quarterback doesn't stand a chance. You turn them loose and they make plays. What's apparent to me is our guys, one, they don't have the freedom that some of these other players have to move around and be active, but that doesn't make a pass rusher. TJ Watt could line up in the same spot, be triple teamed, and still get to the quarterback. So that doesn't matter. What's apparent to me is our guys lack the fluidity, the natural bend, and then they lack the ability to string together moves in order to get to the quarterback. So there's a number of things fundamentally wrong with our edge rushers. You're looking for something from these guys that they just don't have. None of our guys move like TJ Watt. None of our guys move like Nick Bosa. None of our guys move like Max Crosby. None of them. They don't look like those guys. They don't move like those guys. They don't have a motor like those guys. And I'll even say this, they're not even as good as Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson had a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and another interception. He's now got 2 interceptions. And go watch that play. If you haven't seen it, go watch that interception Aiden Hutchinson made against the Carolina Panthers. He's got 2 interceptions this season. That would lead our team. He's a defensive end. He's got 2 interceptions. That would lead our team this season. We've got 2 as an entire squad. He's got 2 by himself. These guys are impacting games. TJ Watt impacted the game like he always does in a massive way on Sunday. He's all over the field. Game on the line, he sacks Lamar Jackson. The game's over. Our guys could never. When we need them the most, they disappear. Especially the edge guys. I told you, if Daron Payne got one-on-ones as much as Chase Young and Montez Sweat did, he'd be a double-digit sack guy every year. Him seeing single, a lot of singles, that ship sailed last year when he dominated the league. He's gonna have to find a way to win against doubles and things of that nature, chips. He's gonna have to find a way to win against those because he's gonna see a steady diet of the center coming over and getting some. I watch these edge rushers. Max Crosby, if you watch the game on Monday night, you see the relentless nature he plays with. Like, are you kidding me? This guy's a big ball of energy. He just doesn't have a different gear than 5. It's stuck in 5. It's broken and it's stuck in 5. That's all he knows is 5th gear. And whether he's rushing and he's spinning 3 times in the same play and it's not working, he doesn't give a shit. He's gonna keep pushing. He's jumping inside, he's jumping outside. Something's gonna work. He's got rush moves, he's got a plan. It's not just a bull rush every single time, hoping that this guy, you catch him off balance and you're able to bull rush him into the lap of the quarterback. There are actual moves being executed. Our guys don't rush with purpose, with plan. They just hope to catch a tackle lacking on a particular snap. Sometimes Chase will go inside. Generally, when he does, he doesn't get there. It leaves the outside open. The quarterback now has free range to either post up and throw the ball or run. If our guys get chipped, that's it pretty much. They get chipped, or a tight end gets a piece of them on the way out, or the tight end lines up on their side of the formation and forces them to go a little bit wider. Generally, that's it. I've seen Sweat win once or twice this year in those types of situations, but that's rare. It's frustrating because when you spend, Max Crosby's a 4th round pick, by the way. Right? When you spend the kind of draft capital, now the other guys are all 1st round picks, but that's what 1st round picks are supposed to look like, if you get my drift. I don't feel like this is another reason that I'm frustrated as a fan, is because I don't feel like we get the right 1st rounders. We don't get the guys that play like 1st rounders. That's part of the problem in Washington, is when we hit big on someone, it's usually somebody in a round you weren't expecting to hit big on, i.e. Terry, right? i.e. Jordan Reed. Trent Williams was probably the last bona fide stud number 1 pick that we had. Brandon Sheriff was drafted to be a tackle, and he ended up playing guard. And for as good as Sheriff was, I think his elite status was grossly overrated. That's just my personal opinion. I thought he was one of those dudes that, off of name recognition, became a household name on a roster that just sucked. And every year, Brandon Sheriff, he's a Pro Bowl, All-Pro guard. I beg to differ. I think he's really good. He's probably Pro Bowl caliber. I wouldn't put him in the All-Pro. He's not Zach Martin, But that's nor here nor there. We just don't hit home runs. We hit doubles, the occasional triple. We don't hit home runs. None of our edge rushers are home run hitters. They're not Max Crosby. They're not TJ Watt. They're not Nick Bosa. We spent the number 2 overall pick on Chase Young. Nick Bosa was the number 2 overall pick. Myles Garrett was that's what the shit is supposed to look like. When you spend a pick that high on a pass rusher, he's supposed to look like one of those guys. He doesn't. He doesn't look like Max Crosby. He doesn't even look like Aiden Hutchinson. Again, the number 2 overall pick, he doesn't look like Aiden Hutchinson. He doesn't impact the game like Aiden Hutchinson does. There's just a certain level of athleticism that is necessary for the position to be elite. And our guys are kind of mechanical and stiff, upright. They don't, bend at the hip well. I don't think we'll ever get out of either one of those dudes what you are looking for from them. They'll never be Myles Garrett or Nick Bosa. Hell, Khalil Mack is more like them. They'll never be Khalil Mack. Chase Young or Montez Sweat will never have 6 sacks in a game. Mack just did that 2 weeks ago against the Raiders. They'll never do that in a game. And he's more mechanical, sort of like Chase and Montez, but he's much more powerful than those guys are. And probably a little bit more twitchy in terms of raw quickness. Heavy hands too, which our guys don't have either. We're never going to get what we want out of these dudes. You guys can face that now or you can face it later. But if you overpay for one of these dudes, you're probably going to regret it. I'm not opposed to paying one of them, but nobody takes fair market deals anymore. These guys are going to view themselves as elite pass rushers and they're going to want to be paid as such. But they're not Nick Bosa. They're not TJ Watt. They're not Myles Garrett, and they shouldn't be paid like those guys. And if anybody's even sniffing in that neighborhood, I'd rather let them walk, personally, and just start all over again. It's frustrating watching other teams hit the jackpot with their edge rushers. And we got solid guys, but they're not impactful guys. And I'll take it a step further. I told you I had another big takeaway. I was thinking about this defense over the weekend. And if you've watched the film with me, I've been very clear to you guys. We're playing a lot more man this year than we have in past years. A lot more man. And we've seen guys getting ate up, right? We played some coverage against the Bears, and that was unsuccessful because the safety was sleeping. He was caught lacking a couple of times. Played cover 2. You could see it on the touchdown. That was Percival Butler. That's why I said we're going to miss, Defoe. Because even though Defoe wasn't making plays, he was where he was supposed to be when he was supposed to be there. Nonetheless, It occurred to me, now, again, there are other factors. This is not the end-all, be-all, right? And we've gone through some of the factors. But in Jack's first year here, obviously the defense couldn't be much worse than it was. We had a terrible defense when Jack showed up in 2020 from the previous year in 19. So whatever he did that first year was going to look exponentially better than the year previous. But we also had a really bum schedule in 2020. I don't want you guys to forget the likes of the quarterbacks we were seeing that year. That's a rookie Jalen Hurts. That's Nick Mullins. Who else did we see? Joe Burrow got hurt. I forget who came in for him, but he was asked to. The Cowboys, we saw Ben DiNucci once, and then, we saw the Red Rifle twice, but we heard him in the first game, and we got Ben DiNucci. And then we got the Red Rifle again in the second game. Again, it was a mess. We saw a lot of bad quarterbacks in 2020. But we also played a lot of zone. Ronald Darby was here in 2020. Fuller was here, and we kept everything in front of us. Everything in front of us because we played a ton of zone. So what did we do the following year? We let Darby walk. We go out and we sign. What's homeboy's name from the Bengals? William Jackson III, right? and he's supposed to be this pure man cover corner. And what did Jack scream that entire offseason? Oh my gosh, we can play some man now. Because everybody knows, if you can play cover one with different principles connected to it, but if you can basically play cover one, that's the best defense that there is. There's no confusion. It's basic in terms of its ideology. Now, you can complicate it and give it some other things that make it a deadly defense. But cover one, there's a reason why Bill Belichick values the cornerback position, because it allows you to play man. And if you can play man, then you can do a number of different things. It changes everything schematically if you can play man coverage, especially on third downs. Want to know why the Jets are so good defensively? They can play man coverage. They got two corners that they love. It simplifies things, right? You can get aggressive. You can blitz, because there's no confusion on the back end when I got this dude and you got that guy. When you zone blitz, all it takes is for one guy to F up his responsibility and somebody's running wide open for a 60-yard touchdown. That shit doesn't happen in man, right? You got a guy, I got a guy, he got a guy, and let's go to work. So Jack was all excited. I can be a little bit more exotic now. That's what we were told that old offseason heading into 2021. And then they realized very quickly William Jackson III is not as advertised. Now, first, they were putting him in zone looks a lot and asking him to be the best version of himself in zone, which is not who he is. Then they started putting him in man, and he was still getting cooked. Now, he cleaned up a lot more towards the back end of the season. And they kind of tried to say it was him getting more acclimated to zone. But they realized pretty early on he can't play man as well as he told us he could, or the film said that he could. And he's not acclimating to our zone scheme. Hence the drop-off in 2021 defensively. And we played better quarterbacks. Let's not forget that part. So you go to 2022 and you're back to square one. You're back to these corners that aren't really great in man coverage. So what do? You go back to a more of a zone type of scheme. Keep everything in front of you. Minimize the big plays. Because we gave up a ton of them in 2021, right? Trying to play man, trying to be a little bit creative in the back end, and guys just didn't take to it, right? Guys weren't doing their jobs. So you go back to more of a zone coverage, scheme. Keep everything in front of you. Rally up, tackle, and the defense comes alive. One of the best third down defenses. Well, the best third down defense in football. You're not getting turnovers. But you're getting teams off the field, at least. But that's not good enough. We want turnovers, right? And the way to get more turnovers is to be more aggressive. So what do? They go out and they draft a first-round corner. They go and draft a nickel/safety in the second round that they think can come in and help this defense. And what did they do again? They did the same thing that they did in 2021. Hey, let's play a little bit more man. We got us a corner now. Manuel Forbes in college, to me, was a zone corner, right? He wasn't a man corner. He kept everything in front of him for the most part. Eyes on the quarterback. He wasn't a man corner, And they got him in here playing man coverage, essentially, against A.J. Brown, giving up big plays. So they switched to a little bit of zone. And you got to give credit to Hurts. He was finding him in the little holes, like cover two, honey hole, over the top. I mean, it is what it is, right? But it's not just Forbes. We saw Benjamin St-Juste locked up one-on-one with no safety help. Now, I don't know if that was by design or if somebody blew coverage, but he's one-on-one with DJ Moore on a third down and 10. We don't get any pressure on field, so DJ Moore is allowed to run a long-ass post corner, and he gets wide-ass open. Juice can't run with DJ Moore. Are you kidding me? Can't play man on DJ Moore and press and think that Benjamin St. Juice is going to stay with him. Yeah, right. Then we saw Danny Johnson come in the game, and he's locked up one-on-one with him, and he gets cooked, but Justin Fields misses him. There's a lot of man coverage going on. And I think because they drafted Emmanuel Forbes, they got sucked into this notion of, hey, we can play man again. Just like they got sucked in 2021 when they went out and got William Jackson III and felt like they could play a little bit more man. We want Jack to be more creative, and I'm not giving Jack any excuses because Jack could be more creative. But you can't blitz if you don't have guys on the back, because our blitzes don't hit home, first and foremost. You know, it's one thing if you're blitzing and you're creative and these blitzes are getting to the quarterback and speeding up his clock. We're blitzing 6 guys and all 6 of them are getting picked up. So the quarterback, so now you're leaving, it's essentially one-on-one across the board. If they've got 5 guys out in the route, which the likelihood is they don't. If they've been able to pick up our 6, they probably kept at least 6 in to block the 6. But that's nor here nor there. You're essentially given a ton of one-on-ones across the board. And our guys aren't winning those. We don't win one-on-ones in coverage because we don't have man-to-man coverage guys. The only guy that I think is good in that regard is Kendall Fuller. And even he's susceptible to getting beat from time to time. So, but I trust Kendall more than I trust any of the other corners on this team in one-on-one coverage down the field. So, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I just feel like Jack has gotten this false sense of hope with Emmanuel Forbes playing man, and that just hasn't been the case. If you really thought you were going to be able to play some man, you were better off going out and getting Christian Gonzalez. Right? At least that's how I see it. Because he was going to give you the best man coverage of any of the corners. That includes Devon Witherspoon. He was going to give you the best man coverage of any of the corners in the draft. Hell, even Joey Porter Jr., even though I couldn't stand him and I think he's extremely handsy. Even if you were looking for man-to-man, he showed you in college, I can play press man-to-man and run. A little handsy for me again, but he showed the ability to be able to do it if that's the direction you were looking to go. Forbes didn't really show that in college. He's a zone corner. So why aren't we playing zone? Like, just go with what works. This group that you have, they're better in zone coverage. Keep everything in front of you and be a bend but don't break defense if you have to. I'd love to be aggressive. I'd love to turn the dogs loose. But we don't have a secondary that's capable of covering guys in those situations. We've proven that time and time again. Look at the big days we're giving up to receivers across the league. Guys are licking their chops when they see us coming. This guy just put up 230 and 3 tubs. Hey, the week before it, A.J. Brown put up a $175 and 2 tubs. I'm looking for my opportunity. When is it my turn? Hell, a rookie and Marvin Mims had 2 or 3 catches for $1 and some change and a tub. Everybody's getting some. When is it my shot? Stephon Diggs came in here and got 10, 11, 12 catches for $1 and some change. Everybody's getting their turn. The question isn't, is it going to happen? Is who's next? Like Goldberg. Who's next? They got to do something. They got to figure something out. I think they should go back to playing pretty much zone coverage. That's what this group seems to be able to handle. That's what they seem to be better at. Anyway, those are my takeaways from the weekend. What's yours? If any. In other news, Washington made some moves today, obviously corresponding with the news that we got yesterday of the two safeties hitting IR. We talked about this yesterday. Derek Forrest starting free safety, shoulder injury, heading the IR. We don't know if it's short term yet or long term. And also, in addition to him heading the IR, our All-Pro safety or All-Pro special teams safety, All-Pro Revo Jeremy Reeves also heading the IR with a knee injury. Again, don't know the extent of that injury nor the extent of his stay on IR, whether it's all season long or just the short-term version, but that is happening as well. So now you have two roster spots available because of those two departures to IR. Washington then signed from their practice squad Dejon Harris, a.k.a. Scooter Harris, the linebacker. And they also brought up safety Terrell Burgess, who I thought played, solid football in the preseason, onto the from the practice squad to the active roster. So those two will be taking their spots. A few corresponding moves on the practice squad happened. That's irrelevant. Don't concern yourself with that. So I wanted to ask you guys a question. Like, so let me just say this, because I know I'll forget. Washington put out a little documentary on Brian Robinson Jr. called Warrior. They did that yesterday. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, I heard it's actually pretty good. I haven't watched it myself, but check it out. They posted it to their YouTube channel. It's also on the team website. It's about 52, 53 minutes long. So you're looking to carve out about an hour roughly if you're going to watch this thing. Talks about his story, obviously getting shot and all of that, and him coming back from that. So they talk about his upbringing. And he's an interesting dude because his collegiate career was one of perseverance. This is a guy that he only played 1 year at Alabama. He was on their team for 5 years, but he was behind the likes of Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs. And, you name it. Najee Harris. Like, every one of those big-time backs that came through there. He might have even been there with Bo Scarborough as well. Like, every time you thought it was his opportunity, somebody else stepped in and he just had to wait and kept waiting. And normally in today's environment, the first sign of trouble, guys don't have that ability to persevere and continue to grind and wait for their opportunity. They just transfer. And I can tell you this, and I've felt this way for a long time with certain schools. You being a core special teamer or you being a third string running back or you just starting 1 year at Ohio State or at Alabama or USC is way more valuable than you transferring and playing at Tulsa for 2 or 3 years and being a starting running back there. I've seen countless guys make it to the league with little to no game tape, being the 5th, 6th receiver at Alabama or Ohio State. Remember Evan Spencer, who we drafted in like the 6th round? Guy barely played at Ohio State. Made it to the league, though, right? Cam Sims barely saw the field at Alabama. Made it to the league and is still hanging on in the NFL, right? To me, it's of greater value to just stay at a school like that and wait your turn, if at all possible. And Brian Robinson is the definition of waiting his turn. Got that opportunity, seized it, ended up parlaying that into a 3rd round selection, and look at him now. So I can't wait to watch it. I think it's going to be a really good, inspirational story. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, check it out. But I wanted to ask you guys a question. having had this little, break from the squad, what are your expectations for this team moving forward this year? I think most of us are in a jaded type of mindset right now. I know I am. I can't speak for you, and I'm probably going to snap out of it eventually. They've got to win some games though. Like a win on Sunday would go a long way in changing the way that I view them, because in my mind, the 4 or 5 game losing streak is in progress right now, right? This is our MO. Start the season off with a win, then you lose 4 or 5 straight, and then you dig yourself that hole, and then you grab a shovel, right? You climb out of that hole, but you get to the top, and now you realize I got to shovel all this dirt back into the hole. And that's usually the losing streak, right? So for me, the analogy is you dig this giant hole, right? And as you're digging, you're actually in the hole that you're digging, right? And when you're done digging, you look up and you've got a hell of a climb back out. But you climb back out of it, and now you got to put all that dirt back, right? And that's us losing 4 out of 5 or, 3 or 4 straight late in the season to kill any momentum that we had after winning, 4 out of 5, 4 in a row, 5 out of 6, or like we did last year, 6 out of 7. So for me, the expectation is we're going to lose on Sunday, possibly lose to the Giants as well. Wouldn't shock me in the least. Because again, in order for us to wake up and respond, we got to think our season's over. Seems like the only way that these guys start playing good football is this everyone thinking the season's done and there's no expectations. When there's any expectation whatsoever with this team, we are terrible. Expectations are our kryptonite. Expectations are our kryptonite. What happened week 1? The expectation, we better beat these boys by 90. We barely escaped. All this build up, home crowd is going to be in full effect. Sellout, haven't had one of those in ages. Arizona stinks. They just moved on from a veteran quarterback in Colt McCoy. They traded for Joshua Dobbs. Oh, man, we better slaughter these boys. There was an expectation there. What did they do? They crumbled under those expectations. Go to Denver. There are no expectations in Denver. Just find a way to try to win, but I don't expect you to. What do? They play excellent ball after digging themselves a 21-3 deficit in hole, right? Play excellent ball. There were no expectations in Denver. Not for me, at least. You go 2-0, and now there's massive expectations. You're 2-0. Buffalo's coming to town. Your head coach says this is a measuring stick game, which I hated that. And I told you that in the moment. I hate that you're putting that kind of pressure on them. Internally, you could be saying to yourself, yeah, I want to see what we're about. And everybody, and the players know, but you outwardly saying, hey, this is a measure. Let's see where we are. And then them doing what they did, pretty disappointing. Right? Expectations were high. You see what they did, right? Following week, expectations are low. Eagles are one of the best teams in football. You just got your ass kicked the week before. You're going to Philadelphia and you're going to be slaughtered. We were 8.5 point underdogs or something like that. It started out at 7, got all the way to 9, 9.5, and then fell to 8.5 at kickoff. And we had those boys on the ropes and let them off the hook. No expectations, right? Following week, quick turnaround. You're expected to destroy the Bears. Primetime stage. People are starting to buy into what you're selling because of what you did in Philadelphia the week prior. And they're looking at your team and they say, hey, this is not a bad team. Got a defensive line. Quarterback's playing well. Eric Bieniemy's doing some things with this offense. Hey, look out for the Commanders. We got expectations. It's a sellout. And what do? We sell out. get our asses whooped. There'll be little to no expectations on Sunday against Atlanta, and probably they'll play well. That's my guess. But until they show me, I'm expecting a loss and possibly one in Week 7 against the Giants, because the only way we will see them perform is when everybody pronounces them dead, like they did in 2020 when they were 1-5 and 2-7. Like they did in 2021 when we were 2-6 and we were playing the Buccaneers coming off of a bye, the defending Super Bowl champions. Like they did in 2022, when we were 1-4 and we had just lost to the Titans. We were dead. That's when they play their best football. So we're not dead yet. You lose to Atlanta, you're not quite dead yet either. Losing to the Giants would pronounce your season dead at 2-5. So I think that's where we'd have to be before this team, gets on their horse and decides. And then obviously the expectations will be extremely low for that game against the Eagles the following week. We'll probably be double-digit underdogs if the Eagles are still undefeated, if they beat the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football the week prior. We'll probably be double-digit home underdogs. And that's when we'll wake the hell up and jump up and bite Philadelphia and start to try to come alive. Win 3 out of our next 4 or 4 out of our next 5. And then we'll be 6-6. And then the wheels will fall off when we see the Dolphins and San Francisco and Dallas late in the season. And that's when the wheels will fall back off again. I don't know. That's what my expectation is. I hope I'm wrong. I know you guys are just done with Ron and Jack and company and just want them gone anyway. So you really don't care how this thing turns out. I'm competitive. I still do. I still want to win. Because I truly believe they're getting fired regardless. So why not go out with a bang? Why not go out winning 10 games? But it's not enough, right? I don't think they're going to be back, regardless of what happens. But that's my expectation. What's yours? What do you think is going to happen? You think this team's going to come alive? I don't. I've seen this movie before. Show me that this is a different sequel. I've been saying, show me all year, and they haven't shown me shit. All they've shown me is that it's the same team from 2020, 2021, and 2022. It's the same mentality. We don't handle the expectations well, and we only respond when our back is completely against the wall and our stock is as low as it can get and nobody's checking for us. So we're not there yet, so there's still more losing to come before it changes. That's my expectation. What's yours? So you got a couple of assignments in the comment section. Biggest takeaway from the action over the weekend that corresponds with this Commanders team. Like, what's the biggest thing that you saw that you either said, hey, we're really good because the rest of the league isn't good at this, or we really suck at this, or hey, we could use one of those, or hey, our guys at this position aren't as good as we think because I watched all these players at the same position and they're better than our guys, and our guys don't do this, or we're poorly coached because of this, because I watch this, that, and this, and I see teams doing this, and this with lesser talent. Leave it down in the comment section. Biggest takeaway in regards to the Commanders, and what are your expectations for this season moving forward? Leave it down in the comment section. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Remember, we will be live tomorrow night. I may open up the phone lines. Stay tuned for that. I'll let you know. I don't get carried away, but it's something that I've been thinking about doing on some of these, live shows during the week. But, we'll see. I'll keep you abreast of that situation. You guys will know if it's going to be open phone lines or not. Anyway, you guys have a good one. Take care.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone.